Bonjour tout le monde. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Alors, ça va? On arrive à gérer online all your different modules and all that?
Oui.
Okay, donc before I proceed as usual, just let me know whether on my side it's clear. You can hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Ok. Donc, ce qu'on va faire, we are going to go through any problems that you're having. Donc, lab sheet 1 by now you should have completed, except of course for those who joined late. Are you having any problems, those who joined in late? I don't know if we have people who joined in late in this batch. Est-ce qu'il y a des soucis that you want me to pick up in terms of code blocks? On n'arrive pas à comprendre how to start and all that? Non, pas de souci. Ok, so in that case, we move on. Donc, pour aujourd'hui, vous êtes supposé de faire lab sheet 2. Ok, so if you can let me know, est-ce qu'il y a des soucis par rapport à lab sheet 2? Anyone who has already completed lab sheet 2? Donc, this is lab sheet 2 that you're supposed to be working on. Just having a quick look at it together. Donc, la première question, c'est... Okay, so write and execute. Donc, first question. Before we move on with it, just so I have put this, you will see mostly all the different lab sheets. Donc, au début, donc, in the question itself, we don't say it, but have the habit of applying these good principles, c'est-à-dire don't jump to code blocks and start writing your program straight away. Mais vous allez commencer par définir le problème, designing the solution, and so on. Just give me a second. I'm having too much background noise from my side. Okay, so as I was saying, don't be in a rush to open code blocks and start writing your program. Donc, pour chaque problème, chaque question que vous allez définir le problème, and then you are going to try and visualize it, design it using either the pseudocode or the flowchart. You can do both as well if you want. Désolée, vous autres, j'ai un petit problème avec connexion. Okay, so moving on once again to the lab sheet. So so those who just joined, who joined late, donc le lab, it's not meant to be working on all the solutions during this lab session. So usually you should already have done at least 50%. And then if you're stuck, we are going to discuss the issues mainly. So the 1 hour is not meant to complete this lab. It will not be, usually it's not enough. For the first week 1, 2, and 3, probably it's going to be enough. But as we move on, you will see that there are much more questions, and this 1 hour is not going to be enough. So basically, please go through the questions. Donc, this is meant for any problems that you're having. Donc, je repose la même question. Est-ce qu'il y a des problèmes avec l'absheet 2? OK.
Non.
Non, c'est bien, madame.
Non, non.
Non, pas de problème. Donc, si vous avez des questions, you can also raise your hands. And then I can see one at a time. Okay, so I have one hand raised. Aisha. Oui, Aisha, can you put your camera on?
Problem matrix, 2 by 2 matrix. On va pas faire les.
OK, donc on a un problème avec le 2 by 2 matrix. OK, any other issues? Nezat?
I have the same problem.
Same problem. Okay. Donc, vous avez un problème avec le 2 by 2 matrix. Any other issues? Donc, allons passer. Le 2 by 2 matrix, I think, is the last question. But let's just go through the other questions quickly. Donc, as I repeat, at the beginning, I'm going to go through, I'll try to guide you through so that everyone gets at the same pace. But as we move on, I'm not going to go through each and every question. It will be mainly questions where you are having problems. Okay. At the same time, wizard, you are all you having a Umail account, donc you can use meet sessions when where you can have group discussion. Donc pour as of this week, you're going to be set up in groups, starting with the communication skills module. I don't know if you have set up groups already for your other modules. Donc, why I'm saying this is that it really brings a plus if you can have group discussions. Donc, when I say group discussion now, let's say you're working in group 5, 10, 20, whatever it is. So I'm not talking about just 1 or 2 persons who are going to do all the job and share it with the others. It's mainly to discuss what are the problem areas. Maybe there are different approaches, not only for this module, but for other modules as well. So have this good habit of working in teams, because this is really part of your part of the different aspects that you should be at ease with when you start working as well. So teamwork, be able to work with different people who have different personalities, different pace of working. So everyone is going to be an asset in the team. But of course, if you're having people who are not working at all, for instance, you have an assignment to do and 1 or 2 persons are not working at all, so the first thing you try to talk to him or her. But if things are not working out, then there's always the tutor with whom you can discuss. Okay, so teamwork is everyone is contributing to the team in one way or the other. Donc ça c'était juste un aside. Coming back to the lab sheet now, the question 1, write and execute. So this was just a simple example in terms of showing you how to do computation. Donc this is the addition example. Note here that in this example, there is not the int mate and all that. So if you write the program as is, it's not going to work. So you have to ensure that it's in the proper program setup. Just give me a second, I'll be back. désolé, désolé. Okay, so coming back to question 1. So this program is not going to work if you just type it like this. So it has to be as usual within your main program. Question 2, question 3. These are questions that we have discussed during the lab sessions as well. So basically, the idea is for you to get more acquainted with code blocks. And I already told you to work on these examples. La question de BMI. Donc, these are simple examples. Now, question 5. Question 5 is just for you to be able to use the different type of escape characters like /t, /n, /a. So I hope you have been able to do that. Question 6. So this is another example trying to show you how to make use of so if you need a slash sign, you need to include a quote in between the text itself. So it will be /quote and then again /quote if you want to put, for instance, to display the word John between quotes. Number 7. Okay, so number 7. Have you been able to work out number 7? No issues on number 7 because here we have to enter the name and the address and the telephone number, and then we have to output something like John stays at which address and has which telephone number. Donc, as you can see here, for instance, for the name itself, if you put the first name and the surname, or even whatever, if you have more than one name to input here with space, it's not going to work with just a C in. Donc, and who has worked out this question 7? Anyone who has worked out this question already? We need.
Yes.
So can you maybe share your answer with us? I just want to show you how this is going to be different. You can't just use C in. So I have Ovidesh as well. Okay, so we have Neil first. If you can share your answer for question 7.
Wait
What
a minute.
you can do as well, just for you to help each other, as you are going to proceed with the different lab questions, you can share a common drive within your group of students, and then you can post the answers out there. Last year, I had a student who had worked out the questions and then who at the end had given to me all the different answers, but I don't want to give it to you at this point. It's just you are not going to force yourself into really learning the different topics and try to apply it. So at some point in time, I might be giving you out the solutions, but not for the moment. So for the moment, we are here to discuss whatever issues. So between yourself now, as you're proceeding, if you want to share within your group, then that should be fine. How do we work with time in C++? Okay, so let's just wait for the time question. So I want to see first of all for question 7. Donc, Neil, you're going to share your answer.
Yes.
Okay, so if you can just, you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I can stop sharing. Then you can share your screen. Donc, the way we proceed for the lab session, we try to be as interactive as possible so you can see what others are doing as well. So can you explain to us a bit what you have done for question 7?
Yes. So we declare name as a string.
Mm-hmm.
We declare char as a address as a char with array. Then we declare telephone number as integer. We output a prompt and input name. We output input address. Then get line, address, and the size of the address. The
Okay.
number of characters. Then we output input telephone number. Then we input telephone number.
Okay.
Then
Okay, so and then you're going to output. Just for your information, look, the way you have written it, this is correct. The only thing is the output. You have not respected in terms of the way the question was saying how to display the output. Now, Chapa display the output the way it requested, and you will lose marks for it if it was for a test, for instance.
Yes.
Okay, so do pay attention to this. In the output, it says something like my name is ID, etc. So you should be displaying it in this format. Can you go up in this question now just to explain a bit to the others? Donc, comme vous voyez, he has declared string for name. So for name now you can have more than one name, and again even for the name, for the input you have done C in name. So if there is a space in between, it's not going to accept. So you can use a get line here, get line C in name. As you see in the chat where Ovilesh has input, so that would be get line C in virgule name, where you are also going to take on board space. Now for the address, instead of just using a string, you have used char address 50. So I just like to point out now, so there are two ways of being able to store a list of characters. You can either declare it as a string or as an array of characters. Okay, though for the moment we are not going to discuss too much in terms of arrays, but since you have stored your address as an array of characters, so an array of characters in this scenario here where he says char address 50, it means that address can store up to a maximum of 50 characters. Okay, and then in the input for the address you have said cin dot get line bracket the variable name address virgule 40. So this is you're expecting the address to be a maximum of 40. Note that just check your chat. You will see in the chat there is get line cin address, and here Neil has done cin dot get line address virgule 40. So these would be the variants that you're going to use if you declare your string as a string or as an array of characters. So if you declare it as an array of characters, just like Neil has done, then you would be using the format cin.getLine, the variable name and the size. Compared to if you had defined your address as a string, then it would be cin.getLine bracket cin address. Okay, so I have a second. Any question on the answer projected by Neil? The others, any question? Sebo? We have a second variation now of Vilesh who has pasted his answer, part of his answer.
I stop sharing.
Yes, you can stop sharing. Merci beaucoup, Neil. Look, as we have, so it's not going to be the same person who will be sharing screen. The aim is to ensure that all of you are participating as well. Look, I have a village who has defined both name and address as string. And then as you can see, just check the chat room. As you can see for the name, then he is using get line cin virgule name, since name has been defined as a string, Emma Mafia pour address. Any further question on this? So this is usually a lab question where I get issues from students since we haven't worked on strings yet. Donc vous avez deux variations, cin.getLine or getLine virgule cin virgule variable. Okay. Question? Before I move on, I'm moving on to the next question. I'm not going to do each and every question together. So I pinpoint usually the pain areas and then I try to discuss on those only. So moving on now to your lab sheet. Donc ça c'était lab sheet question 7. Then lab sheet question 8, write a program. Okay, so this is the matrix example. So anyone in the class who has already done the matrix example, who wants to share her answer with us? Donc, Ovilesh, merci beaucoup for sharing your answer. So your answer, so you have, so even for the output, this is what I was talking about, Neil. If you can check the answer for Vilesh. So he has put it in the format which is requested which has been set up in the question. Okay. So pay attention to each and every requirement in the question. Otherwise, you might be, so for a question like this, if you don't put the output in the required format, you won't be losing a lot of marks because this is just the last part, one of the outputs. But still, I want you to score maximum where possible. So don't where it's easy to score maximum, you try to score maximum, because for some questions the complexity is going to be higher, and then of course it's going to be more difficult to score the maximum marks. Okay, so we move on to the matrix example. Let's look at the question first of all. So I'm just going to share my screen again with you so that everyone understands what all this about. So the matrix example, this is what you have done. So this is a maths question. A 2 by 2 matrix. So dot matrix of a 2 by 2 matrix. Donc on a XY AB for the first matrix, X1 Y1 A B for the first matrix, and then we have X2 Y2 A2 B2 for the second matrix. So we have two 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, so for the matrix example, first of all, you have to input all the values. So if your first matrix has values x1, y1, a1, b1, you will have to input all these values. And same thing for the second matrix, x2, y2, a2, b2, you will have to input all these values. Now, who can tell me what's the formula for calculating the dot matrix of a 2 by 2 matrix? How do you calculate it? Forget about C++ for the moment. How do you do the calculation for a 2 by 2 matrix? Première rangée, première colonne, etc. You still remember? Vous avez fait ça, n'est-ce pas? All of you here have maths main. Yes, no? J'ai oublié à quel niveau on fait ça. So I have someone who has raised hands. No, who has raised hand? Neil, yes? You want to share something?
First column times first row.
First column times first row, or the inverse? First row times first column?
First column times row.
Oh, okay, so you do it slightly different. Okay. And then?
And you add word over columns.
And then, okay, so you multiply and you add them together. Donc, première des choses, you should know how to do it in terms of mathematical notations. So the way to proceed when you have the values. Then the rest is going to be easy. So if you have your 8 values, you know in which order you need to do the computation, then you just need to multiply and add the values which are corresponding. Then in terms of the display, bien sûr, if you're trying to display it avec le gros bracket pour matrix, etc., ça va pas être possible. You will just be using, for instance, in the first row, what are the values. Donc, if we have a 2 by 2 matrix, that we have 2 by 2 matrix, we do a dot product. What is going to be the output? What will be the size of the matrix? It's still going to be, yes? If you say you take a 2 by 2 matrix, you multiply it, you do the dot product, what you get in terms of output, in terms of number of elements, what will be the size of the matrix?
2 by 2 matrix.
It will still be a 2 by 2 matrix itself. Yes, correct. Donc, à ce moment-là, you just have to display that 2 by 2 matrix. Donc, you know what are the values in the first row, the two values in the first row, and the two values in the second row. You just have to make use of donc, ce qu'on a fait, c'est-à-dire tab /t, and then moving on to the next line. So you will say /t first value in the first row, /t second value in the first row, and then /n to move to the next line. And you will do the same thing for the second one. We are not going to have those big brackets as you have in your mathematical notations, of course. Okay. Does it bring more light in terms of what had to be done before we move on to the answer itself? Est-ce qu'il y a des soucis par rapport à understanding the steps in terms of how to work out this question? You can raise your hands, you can talk to me. OK. Donc, maintenant, je vais procéder à une autre personne who can share his or her answer. If there is no one, then I will be pinpointing anyone in the group. Donc, anyone who wants to share his, doesn't matter if it's not good. Donc, I have her hand here. Yes, please.
Yes.
You want to share your answer?
Yes.
Okay, merci beaucoup. Donc, I will stop sharing. And if you can put your camera on as well, Wuzat. So I'm not asking all of you, but, or maybe I will ask all of you to put your camera on. If we have bandwidth issues, then you're going to, like we can switch off. Okay, Doc, explain to us what you have done.
So I have declared 8 variables, x1, y1, x2, y2, a1, b1, a2, b2, and then 4 numbers which will store the result. And then here it asking the output and input for the 8 values. And then here it calculates the 4 values and it displays it here.
Okay, so if you just wait for the computation, num1, donc num1, x1, and a1, this is the first row or the first column?
The first column times the first row here.
Est-ce que tu as bien fait là? It should be the first value in matrix 1 multiplied by the first value in matrix 2, right?
Yes, it's x1, a1.
Okay, so can you just tell me, so x1, y1, and a1, b1, are they in matrix 1 or matrix 2?
Sorry?
X1, Y1, A1, B1, c'est pour matrix 1 ou bien
No,
matrix 2?
matrix 1 is here, matrix 2 is here.
Ah, okay. So I get you. So matrix 1 is X1, Y1, X2, Y2, and matrix 2 is A1, B1, A2, B2. Okay?
Yes.
Then it makes sense. So you're taking the first value in matrix 1, X1, multiplied by the first value in matrix 2, A2, plus Y1. So the second value in the first row. So that's what I was saying. Usually, I know it's the first row multiplied by the first column. Okay, A1, A2. Look, yes, it looks good. And then deuxième rangée, donc première rangée, première colonne, deuxième rangée, première colonne, X2, A1, and then Y2, A2. Yes, it looks okay. And then in terms of the display, can you move further down?
Yeah.
So for the display now, you have num1, num2, and the placement, you should be careful about the placement. So the placement for the first one, it was first row, première rangée, première colonne, première rangée, deuxième colonne. Is it good in terms of the placement? Yes, it looks good. Okay. At the same time, I see that you are putting all the questions in the same project. Okay,
Yes.
so others, so if you have done programming before, that might not be a real issue for you. You are able to follow, but others don't follow this example. Go up. I just want to. This is exactly what I don't want you to do to avoid being confused. Don't see that he has put question 8 in this main program. If you can go up. So he has put all the questions in within the same program. So please don't do this. At some point in time, you are going to be confused. And probably then what you are going to do each time you comment those that you're not using and you uncomment those that you're using, right? Am I right, Farhan?
Yes.
Okay. So the others don't follow this example. So these are, have you done programming before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so as I was saying, so people who are already confident, they have done programming before, okay, they can afford doing this. Others who are new, don't use this approach. Okay, donc ça c'était pour la question de matrix. Est-ce que, donc, on avait quelques soucis au début, est-ce que c'est plus clair maintenant pour les autres? Do I still have questions? So the aim is not to just so we have discussed, we have shown you, you can stop sharing, Farhan, merci beaucoup. So the aim is to show you how to do it, but not just to give you the answer as well. So try it, and if you're having issues, you're still not able to follow, then you know who are those in the class who have been able to work it out, and then you can check with them. But et non plus ne rien faire and just get the answers, then this is not going to help you out. Est-ce qu'il y a toujours des questions par rapport à dot matrix? On avait des questions au début. Isha, non, c'était Deepshika qui avait des questions. Donc, ça va? How do we work with... Okay, so we have another question now. How do we work with time in C++? Ok, donc comme j'avais dit la dernière fois, so is there a question with regards to time in this one? No, donc question 9, I'm coming back to the question on time. Let me just finish with these two questions. So I have then we have, so that was question 8 that we just discussed. There is also question 9 and question 10. Question 9 is about the radius, how to calculate calculate and display area of circle. Assume pi to be 3.142. And note that for this question, since we have already worked with constant, so you're going to define pi as a constant. At the same time, when I've been seeing your answer, so I have seen for 2 persons already, I see that you are not using good naming conventions. You are not using proper use of comments. So do make this as a habit. Otherwise, when you're asked to do it, you will find it very difficult. So as good programmers, we are going to write our programs using proper naming conventions, proper commenting, and so on. So I've seen, Farhan, in your code, you had left one line blank in between the major fragments of code. So it's not enough to just leave one blank line. It's important to add maybe one comment for each block of codes, what they are doing. This part is for the input of the 2x2 matrix. This part is for the computation of the dot matrix, and so on. Okay?
Okay.
Ça, c'était un aside. Question 9, donc you make use of constant for pi, define pi as a constant. And question 10, cost per square centimeter of a circular pizza given its diameter. So again, a mathematical computation problem that you have to work on. Any further question on lab sheet 2 before I move on to the other question related to time? Let's see. So no question. Any hands raised? No. Okay, so let's see the question now with regards to time. So how do we work with time in C++? So you have specific functions which can be used to do computation of time. For the moment, we are still at the beginning of this module. I'm not going into these functions. So what you're going to assume, I know there are certain questions where you have to calculate the difference in time between start and stop. So just assume that we have the hour. So it's 1 hour, it starts at 8, and then so we take a 24-hour clock, and then we start at let's say 8 a.m. Jusqu'à 19h, quelque chose comme ça, and then you are just going to do the difference. So consider just the hour and take it as being an integer for the moment. We are not discussing in detail for the time being, although if you Google, you check, you will see that there are time functions where you can manipulate time as in hour, minutes, seconds, and so on. Okay, does it, Dipshika? C'est okay là? C'est bon?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other question for lab sheet 2? Non? Pas de question? Any question with that? No? Pas de question. Okay. So what maybe we can do, since we have just to start up the topic with regards to branching instruction. So I'm just going to work out a very simple example with you. Let's see if I can. I'm just opening code blocks. So we take a very simple example in terms of marks. So let's say we have let me just open an example first. Okay, so I'm just going to share. So you have an example. This was an example that we did work out last time. Enter value of A, value of B, and then calculating the power and so on. So let's say we want to include a validation. So what's a validation? A validation is when you want to check, for instance, when the value input is correct or not. So we want to do power A raised to the power of B, and we want to ensure that the value of B which has been input, that this is not a negative value. So what you can do, you can, for instance, you want to check. So this is where branching instructions comes into picture. You can check, you can use an if statement for that, where you can say if the value of B is less than 1, then you want to throw an error message, for instance. Otherwise, you are going to proceed with your program. So in branching instruction, I'm just going a brief introduction today. Anyway, this is our lecture for next week. We are going to elaborate on it. But then this can help you out already trying some examples before we start the lecture, and you are better prepared for the lecture as well. So how we are going to do this, we are just going to put an if statement here. We say if the value of B, so as soon as I open my bracket, the open close bracket is going to be inserted automatically. So if I say the value of B is less than 1, then I'm going to give some message. So then this is how we put the then. So you have to put the braces. So as you can see now, I just wanted to introduce this concept. So you have int main, the braces for main starts here and ends somewhere down here. Okay, so you have indentation in between. Donc, toute cette partie de code that you have here, all this is within the main function. Now, I have just said if B is less than 1, The scope of this if statement will be restricted to these two brackets now. So what do I want to do if the value of b is less than 1? I want to output an error message. I want to say wrong value for b. Okay, so now let's run it and try to see whether we are getting the expected output. So enter value of a 3, enter value of b, I put 0, and this is what I get. It says wrong value for b, but then note that I'm still seeing the product. So when the value of b is not the expected value, I don't want the program to continue and show me the product. So how to do this? Any questions so far? C'est bon jusqu'à présent? It's a simple example of if. Donc, the construct now, before I move on to the other part of how to ensure that it doesn't go into displaying the product. Donc, if the construct for an if statement, say if, then open bracket, close bracket, you will have the condition in there. In our case, the condition is b less than 4. So just like you have for mathematical, where you're comparing values greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and so on. So the for greater than and less than is the same. For the others, we are going to see next week. Just one example here. So if this is true, what do I want to do? I want to output this error message. So if this is false now, I don't want, so if this is false, this means that I want to be able to proceed with my program. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to update my construct for if. So you can have a branching instruction if. So if you have just an if statement, so it's going to be if this particular statement, then you are going to have some instructions. So if this is true, I want to do see out the value and I want to stop there. Else, what do I want to do? Else, I want to proceed with my program. So what would be proceeding with my program is else if the value is not less than 1, I want to do the computation and I want to output the power. So then this part will go in the else here. And I'm going just to put indentation to ensure that everything is aligned. Note that this is just for the sake of clarity. Even if I don't put it, it should be working. In any case, whether the value is good or wrong, I still need to return an integer. I had put 15 here, just put it 0 again, just like you have in your main program. Let's try to run it and see what we get. So we input value of A 2, we input value of B, let's put less than 1, 0. And now you can see it says wrong value for B and I'm not getting the product. If we run the program again now, input the value of A2, input, we put a positive value, 1, then we are getting the product, sorry, it's not the product, so that should be, so the message is wrong. So that should be the power, whatever it is, the power is, okay? So that was just in terms of the display, 2, 3, and then you're getting power is, so you can put the power of 2 raised to the power of 3 is 8. So I haven't put all this, but you can put it in your example. Moving to the same example now. I just talked about including comments that you have not been including. So for example, ici, I would say validation for value of B. B should be positive. Okay, and then for instance for here, I can put another comment. I can say compute the power. Okay. So this was just to show you how to include also the comments at the same time. So that's all from my part. I'm not going to introduce anything new. I just wanted to introduce this small part with you. I'm just going to paste this program in the chat room so that all of you have access to it. Okay, so you can try it. And that's it from my side, unless you have questions now. So let's see if there are any further questions. Any further question, Wizard? Anything not clear?
No.
No. For next week, Wizard, for this week, just like last week, I regrouped 2 batches together. But as of next week, then we will be following as per how it is in your timetable to ensure that I'm able to take on board different questions, because the complexity also will be increasing. If there is space, you can join in, because you can still join in the lab session, but priority will be given to those, if there are many questions, to those students who are assigned to a particular slot. Any further question? Anything which is not clear that you want me to pick up? We still have 5 minutes left. In any case, so là à 2 heures, I'm going to have the next 2 batches. But then again, at 3 heures, the session will be open. Donc, if you're working out, you're still having issues. Donc, 3 heures à 4 heures, the session will be open. And again, for Friday as well, donc 9 to 10, the session will be open. Donc, si vous avez des soucis, you can join it. But of course, if in the first 10 or 15 minutes, no one is joining in at 3 heures aujourd'hui ou vendredi à 9 heures, then I will be closing the session. Okay? So this was just to let you know. So now you can practice, and if you're having problems, you can come back at 3 heures. Any further question? No? Okay,
No.
so yes, Yashwin, you had a question?
No. I was saying I don't have a question.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you something. Can you just turn on your camera? I don't know why people are so scared to turn on their camera. It's you, it's the same person. It's not a different person. So why are you so scared in turning your camera on? You should be used to this new way of operation, because most of you, especially you're in the digital world, so most of the work that you are doing, you're working online. And one of the problems that students, for instance, from last 2 years are having is that when they join companies, they say, okay, I don't even know my colleagues, because most of the time we are talking to each other, but they never put their camera on. So you might have been talking to a colleague for 1 year, but if that person didn't turn his or her camera on, you see him somewhere, you won't even recognize that person. So I think it's important, especially since we are dealing online and we are having less and less contact with each other. I think it's also important to see each other from time to time. Okay, so during the lecture and the lab, not for necessarily for the full slot, mais au moins pour quelques instants, it's nice to put on faces on your names. Okay, any other question that you have? Non, Alisha, tu as toujours sommeil? No, okay.
No.
Any other question that you have? No? Okay, So I'm still here. Donc si vous avez des questions, you can still talk to me or come back at 3 heures. Otherwise, donc à 1 heure, je vais vous dire de. So in 2 minutes, I will ask you to leave the room so that the others can join in. Merci. On se voit plus tard et aussi vendredi. For some of you with whom I have communication skills. Okay, so I see that the next batch is already entering. So if you n'avez plus de questions, you can leave, and we meet in our other sessions for communication skills this week, or the other session which are open. Bye bye, vous autres. Bonne fin de journée.
Au revoir.
Bye bye.
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 Au revoir.
Bye.